Welcome all you surfers. We have a solar eclipse coming up on July 2nd. This is a special the night before so that we can get ready for this energy. We at the National Dream Center are looking for really honing in on the main collective influence, and we do this in a variety of ways, but we want to get you the main influence so that you know how to navigate the energies in any particular time. We're looking at the latest DreamBot run. We're going to start with this. Now, for those of you who've been around, we know that we triangulate from different sources. The DreamBot tonight looks almost 180 degrees opposite than the I-Ching reading. This is the first time I've seen this, and I have some plausible ideas about how this could be. But let's look at the DreamBot. This is a collection of dreams, Carl Jung's collective unconscious. And for those interested, I have the most recent weekly CIRF report summary is at the lower bottom right, so you can kind of refer to that as we go along. But this is a special report just for the eclipse. And this DreamBot run is on the evening of July 1st. And we have a lot of supremacy in words like king and title and giant. But we also have, and that's the red arrows, so it's kind of sparse. But we also have nature. Nature was a big one yesterday on the 6:30 bot run. This is nature, everything about just the world, not everything, but a lot of key words there, including sea and Japan and states and the word world. So nature, you could replace the world in there as well. And then this black arrows is what contradicts the I-Ching reading for tonight. And it's about conflict and negativity. There's attack in there. There's fade and badly. It's very, very negative. Now, which one is the most dominant? They're all actually fairly equal. So we could be looking at the supreme part of nature happening tomorrow, which is the solar eclipse. That part makes sense. And either the collective could be seeing unconsciously a conflict, which is in the black arrows, a conflict between the sun and the moon, or they might be seeing the Saturn oppose, which we'll talk about here pretty soon. I think the highest probability is that we might be programmed. And we talked a lot about this in the previous week's CIRF report, how it was just very obvious that conflict and negativity was coming through in the collective unconscious. So we could be being programmed, and watch out for that, because this is why I like to do the I-Ching reading. Really incredible how the I-Ching reading, I'm going to show you a couple things here. I threw the coins. This is the intention. I want the main energy. I'm requesting the main energy for July 2nd, 2019, and especially at the moment of the solar eclipse, which happens to be at 3:13 Eastern Standard Time. And so you can set your clocks accordingly. But check out how these coins landed. You first start at the bottom with the I-Ching, and we have 3 yang lines. The I-Ching works in trigrams. So really we have 2 trigrams together making a hexagram. And the first one was all yang lines. That represents heaven. And then on the top was all yin lines, representing earth or female, or yin and yang, yin on top of yang, in fact. So the female energy was more dominant, i.e. on top. And we have, to any surprise, peace, the direct opposite of the DreamBot. This is good news. And it also has hexagram 11, which has 2 vertical lines. So in a way, there's another conjunction here. And this is the main influence as we go into the solar eclipse, especially at the moment of solar eclipse. We have hexagram 11, which is reading from the Book of Changes, the judgment, peace. The small departs, the great approaches, good fortune, success. This hexagram denotes a time in nature when heaven seems to be on earth. Man, that's directly contradictory, but it is related to the DreamBot. Heaven has placed itself beneath the earth, and so their powers unite in a deep harmony. Then peace and blessing descend upon all living things. In the world of man, it is time for social harmony. Those in high places show favor on the lowly, and the lowly and inferior in their turn are well disposed toward highly placed. There is an end to all feuds. One last little bit here under hexagram 11. I think this is really important. I'm reading a little bit more than I normally do. The image is heaven and earth unite, the image of peace. Thus the ruler divides and completes the course of heaven and earth. He furthers and regulates the gifts of heaven and earth, and so aids the people. Heaven and earth are in contact and combine their influences, producing a time of universal flowering and prosperity. Now, we did have an interesting change line. It's a 9 at the very beginning at the bottom, the 1 position, which changes it to hexagram 46. This one is called pushing upward and is not necessarily exclusionary of hexagram number 11. I'm just going to read just a little bit here from the Book of Changes. Pushing upward has supreme success. One must see the great man. Fear not. Depart towards the south. Bring good fortune. That's all metaphoric. But listen to this, because it has everything to do with the weekly CIRF report and the solution. The pushing upward of the good elements encounters no obstruction and therefore accompanied by great success. The pushing upward is made possible not by violence, but by modesty and adaptability. That's the closing of the CIRF, and we need to go into the astrology. But remember, these are 2 different hexagrams as we had yesterday. However, it's posing the exact same solution that we had before, which is to be adaptable, realize that, peace is the influence, not the conflict that we saw in the collective unconscious. So if it does feel conflicted, it's probably coming from some sort of programming. Now let's go into the astrology of it all. And we talked a little bit about this yesterday in the weekly, but let's start in the morning. As the moon approaches the hexagram, the sun, I don't know why I said hexagram. I'm trying to do 2 things at once. Trying to zoom in. Yeah, there we go. So as we zoom in, we can see this a little bit closer. The moon in the morning is going to be sextiling over to Uranus, and Uranus is all about sudden change. Now, with the moon transiting so quickly compared to all the other planets, this influence is going to be fairly short-lived. But then it's going to hit the sun, and this is going to be the solar eclipse. It is in the southern hemisphere, is where the total eclipse is and viewable. You're not going to see a total eclipse in North America, but the energy still will be present, and it is a cosmic union, as discussed before, and it is happening in the tropical sign of Cancer. Cancer being very nurturing, very protective. Protective doesn't necessarily imply peace, but in this case, a lot of emotions might be happening, and we might have any conflict might be coming from this opposition over to Saturn and Pluto. Pluto being known as the destroyer, but also the very transformative planet of psychotherapy even. And Saturn like to keep the law, like to keep order and reduce chaos. And so what we posed yesterday was that perhaps this influence here is a moderator for this cosmic energy that's happening here. But overall, it is peace, and it is in the sidereal sign of Geminis. And Geminis are arguably our best, most adaptable sign. And so the solution we use in the Sidereal Astrology is still the same as the weekly report, which is to stay adaptable, remain in your peace consciousness, remain in harmony. Now, what's interesting is that as soon as the moon departs here, it's going to start getting a stronger opposition to Saturn and then eventually Pluto. And so these aspects are going to become much more prominent, much more energetic. And I can't say that these are bad aspects. There are no good or bad. It's just the energy and how we're going to use it. But it is remaining adaptable. Saturn is going to put a kind of a limit on how much change, but all bets are off with Pluto. And we are pretty much over the north node in Cancer, and the opposition is over the south node. We've been talking about this ever since this alignment really began. So tomorrow afternoon, as the I-Ching implies, it is it's a harmony where heaven is on earth. You all have been following the I-Ching readings and really cleaning up our intentions, our understanding of ourselves. And so this is the culmination of all that we have assimilated thus far. And as soon as this passes, it is time to start pushing upward with those clean intentions and getting the work done. That's all I really wanted to talk about today. The energy just with the collective unconscious and the dream bot is showing it is showing the nature and the earth and all that, everything that the I-Ching talked about, except for the peace. The peace wasn't there, but the conflict was instead. So if you're feeling conflicted, it may have to do with this opposition here, but it also may have to do with being programmed. I recommend mindfully moving forward in the next 24 hours, not expecting great change, but being ready in case it does, and not judging any of it, and not having to do the silver lining thing where you're trying to look for the good in everything. Can you just let it be there? Can you just let the change be there? And not judge it, not label it, and get on your divine path that way. But again, time to push upward as soon as this thing kicks off. And so we'll be ready for the fireworks on July 4th after that. And then we'll get ready for another update, probably maybe on Wednesday or even Friday. Take care, everybody. Have a wonderful solar eclipse, and take care of yourselves.